We'll go with the presentation now of Call Financial.
All right.
So,
Miss April,
okay guys, enjoy.
take it away.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, and good evening and good morning to everyone wherever you are. Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about our 2015 outlook. If some of you are clients, I'm sure you already know our view, but I suppose it's different when you actually hear us talking about it. So I'll talk about our outlook. So when I did this presentation for the clients, it was January 21, and at the time the PSEi was trading at 7.5. Right now we're already at 7.8. Nevertheless, we remain positive. In 2012, we said that the PSEi was we made a fearless forecast that the PSEi would hit 10,000 by 2020 at the latest, and I'd like to stress at the latest. Okay, so right now we're at 7.5 or 7.8, and we remain well on our way to hit that, which is why we're saying to stay the course, keep invested, because the outlook is very bright. Okay, so for the meantime, let's talk about 2015. Why are we bullish about 2015? We believe that liquidity will be the main driver of the stock market. So if you look at what's happening globally, there really is a lot of liquidity. In the US, the Fed actually ended QE3. But if you think about it, they're the only country in the world that tightened somewhat. They ended QE3, you know. But globally, the other countries are actually implementing policies that will allow interest rates to stay low, and in fact, they continue to go down. For example, in Europe, they cut the base rates by 10 basis points, and then negative deposit rates were introduced, no? In fact, ibig sabihin lang nun, if you earn in euros and you want to deposit your money, babayaran nyo pa yung bangko. Yun lang yun. And then, of course, meron tayong tinatawag na 400 billion euro liquidity channel, which means that the banks can access this, or actually the borrowers can access this, and even the banks, if there are a lot of borrowers. Tapos yun, noong September, binaba na naman ang deposit rate, and then most recently, the ECB announced that they will also do their own QE, or quantitative easing. So ginaya na rin nila ang US, and they will be buying 60 billion euros worth of bonds every month, starting tomorrow, which is March. Okay, and then Bank of Japan. So in October 2014, they announced the increase in the size of their debt purchases from 50 trillion yen per year to 80 trillion yen per year. Okay, so yon. And then of course in China, gumaya na rin sila noong November. The 1-year lending rate and deposit rate were cut by 40 basis points and 25 basis points. And then again, China did not stop there. They cut rates again. Okay, actually they cut the reserve ratio, or the amount of cash that the banks must set aside, by 50 basis points to 19.5. So you see, all the countries in the world are actually doing something, no, to ensure that interest rates will stay low and that people will keep on borrowing money. At this point in time, central banks are still finding ways to spur economic growth. And of course, yun na nga, right now, ang concern talaga is deflation rather than inflation. Or ibig sabihin lang nito, ang concern bumababa yung presyo rather than ang tumataas. So if you look at the left chart, inflation, you will notice in general that the trend is on the way down, except for the green line, which is Japan. You will see it going up, but then again, the target of Japan is 2%, and it looks like, di ba, yung nakita nyo, tumaas siya, tapos parang pababa ulit. So they're very worried na hindi masustain itong 2%. At bakit mahalaga ang inflation? Because of course, kung may inflation, there's incentive for people to actually buy goods. Kasi pag alam mong tataas yung presyo ng isang bagay, mas gaganahan kang bumili. But if you know, for example, that the price of goods and if the prices of goods are gonna go down, mas lalo kayong hindi bibili. And of course, for businesses, it's so difficult because if you sell something, tapos bumababa yung presyo, and then you have borrowings, it's really very difficult for you to actually do business. So Japan has had this problem with deflation for 20 years already. Okay? Tapos, yung pagbaba pa ng crude oil is actually another big problem because this will of course lead to falling prices or deflation, or mas lalong magkaka-deflation. Crude oil is actually down by close to 50%, no, even with the rebound lately. Okay, so given this, we think that for 2015 at least, there will be less pressure for central banks to increase interest rates. So most likely, we'll see a lot of liquidity still. Okay, in the Philippines, assuming that you have pesos, tuloy-tuloy din ang pagbaba ng interest rate. So we use the 10-year T-bond, which is one of the benchmarks we use for valuing stocks. We also believe that the 10-year T-bond rate in the Philippines will not go up. And the domestic factors that will ensure interest rates will stay low is, of course, our strong government finances. Ang gobyerno natin ay maraming pera, believe it or not. And of course, strong external account position. Ibig sabihin lang, maraming salamat sa mga OFWs na nagpapadala ng pera tuloy-tuloy at ang daming dollars ng Philippines. And of course, the BPOs are also expanding in the Philippines, which is also highly favorable. And then we've had the ratings upgrade. The Philippines is now investment grade. This just means that more people are willing to lend money to the Philippines. Unlike before, ayaw tayong pautangan ng mga tao. And then of course, our banks have plenty of money. At this point in time, for every 100 peso that we deposit in the banks, only 60 to 70 pesos is being lent out. So, meron pa silang 30 pesos na kailangang ipautang. Okay, I know that a lot of you are a bit hesitant about buying the stock market because we've been going up quite a bit, and that stocks, pag marami ko nakakausap, sinasabi ang mahal na ng stock market. It's 19 times PE, 20 times PE. It's really so expensive because in the past we've only traded at 15, 16 times. But we'd like to point out that it most likely will stay expensive because mababa talaga ang interest rates. And if we compare the yield of the different types of assets, no, like time deposits, 10-year T-bonds, SDAs, which of course we cannot even access at this point, no. Stocks remain very attractive. So in some ways, the low interest rates justify the more expensive valuation of the stock market. Okay, then we have this next slide, which shows the difference of the 10-year bond rate and the earnings yield of the stock market. Ang earnings yield is simply the reciprocal of the PE. So earnings over price. Okay, you will notice that in the past, although yun na nga, we were trading at a higher level or sorry, a lower level of PE. If you look at the left table on the left, okay, you will notice that the 10-year T-bond actually mas mataas yung kikitain or yung yield versus yung yield mo kahit mas mababa ang PE ng stock market. Okay, pero notice mo nung mga 2011 bumaliktad siya. Yung blue bar is higher than the red bar, meaning kahit naging mahal ang stock market, ang return ay mas maganda na kaysa sa 10-year bond. Okay, so another way of looking at it, it would be the right chart. You will see yung spread between the 10-year bond and the earnings yield. Nung dati, kahit mababa yung PE ng stock market, negative yung spread. Ibig sabihin, mas malaki pa yung kikitain mo sa 10-year bond. So, why would you even risk investing in the stock market? But now, may positive spread. Ibig sabihin, mas malaki yung earnings ng stock market versus the yield on the bond. So, in that respect, I guess, I just like to point out that, you know, let's not be too fixated about the PE. The low interest rate will justify the higher PE of the stock market versus historical levels. And then, yun na nga, valuations are very much a concern. But then again, growth is more important than valuation presently. This is a busy chart, but I just like to point out, for example, in 2014, you will notice that the Philippines, it's the third to the last row. Okay, it's one of the best performing markets globally in 2014. On the other hand, you will see Russia and Brazil, UK, negative returns. Pag tinignan natin yung PE ratio, which is the the fourth column, you will notice that Russia is only trading at 4.6 times PE. Okay, so murang-mura pero hindi siya best performing market. So there are of course concerns, no, kung hindi naman ibig sabihin mura ang isang bagay, tataas siya ang presyo. We have to take into consideration what the economic growth is. So you'll notice, if you look at the third column, the Philippines is one of the fastest growing economies. And then, of course, the second to the last column, you will see that our GDP growth for 2015 is again expected to be one of the fastest growing GDP growths. And of course, PE wise, medyo mahal tayo, pero again, it is in a way justified by the above average GDP growth compared to our other peers globally. Okay, another reason why investors don't want to invest in the stock market, they're always saying, malapit na ang election, magkakagulo, ano ba mangyayari, mawala na si Pinoy, hindi natin alam who the next president is. Pero pag tignan mo, ang Pilipino, hindi naman tumitigil ang paggastos ng consumers, di ba? So consumers who account for 70% of the economy continue to spend no matter who the president is. Okay, so we're positive, we're quite optimistic that even no matter who the next president is, consumer spending will remain resilient. Okay, sino ba talaga yung mga Pilipino? So, you know, instead of highlighting the same things that I used to highlight or showing them in my usual way of showing them, I came up with this infographic, okay, to show you who the Filipino consumer is. So population growth 1.8%, which is very important. Ibig sabihin, no matter what you do, dumadami yung bumibili ng goods and mga products. So ibig sabihin, consumer spending will continue to grow up. Median age, very young, 23.3. If you think about it, at the age of 23, of course, you're only starting to earn money. The upside for your salary is still very high. So you can spend a lot more. And of course, mag-upgrade ka pa as your earnings capacity improves. Okay, let's talk about the demographic window first. This is a period of rapid economic growth. As the size of the working population increases. So we're expected to enter it actually this year, and this will last up until 2055. Okay, that's a 40-year period. And during that point in time, there will be a 48% growth in the productive population. Ibig sabihin, yung size ng mga Pilipino na magtatrabaho will increase by 48%. So more Filipinos will have greater affluence. So what happened during this demographic window? Average growth of countries that entered in the demographic window actually benefited from a GDP growth of 7.3% for the first 10 years. Okay? So very positive yan. And then of course, yung resiliency natin comes from OFW remittances. It's now hitting around 24 billion US dollars a year, and the BPO revenues are growing more rapidly, such that it's expected to hit 25 billion US dollars by 2016. Lastly, I'd like to go to the GDP per capita of 2,764. This is actually more anecdotal, but a lot of economies where the GDP per capita reached 3,000 US dollars saw a shift in the spending patterns of the population. For example, nung umabot na ng 3,000 US dollars na GDP per capita, you saw more people buying cars or buying luxury items, kasi nga it's indication of greater affluence. Right now we're at 2,764.58, but of course, give it a few more years, we're going to reach the magic 3,000 US dollars GDP per capita. So it will be very exciting for the Filipinos when we hit that point. And then on the oil prices, sometimes you would read in the news that, of course, as oil prices go down, markets would be hurt, some economies would not do well. But as you can see here, the Philippines is actually one of the major beneficiaries of a decline in oil price. Like here, if oil prices decline by $10, the economy is expected to, or the GDP growth expected to go up by more than 0.5%. This is because sa Philippines, we don't actually have any subsidies. There are some countries na yung government nagsasubsidize ng oil diba? Para to protect the consumers. But in the Philippines, pag tumaas ang oil, complete pass-on. Kaya pag bumaba, complete pass-on din sa atin. Kaya, therefore, we benefit. And of course, the Philippines does not have any oil exploration. We actually import all of our oil, which is also beneficial for our consumers. Okay? So, dadami yung pera ng mga consumers to buy other items.